Welcome to the Edify Studios podcast, discussing the shift of architectural concepts into actual solutions, disrupting the current status quo, and having a blast the whole time. Here are your hosts, Brad Glauser and Brad Walker.
Welcome to a special GlassBuild edition of the Edify Studios podcast. We are incredibly excited. We're going to do a small series of podcasts specifically targeting and promoting the GlassBuild show in Atlanta this year, September 17th through the 19th. www.glassbuild.com. Log on there, register, enter in promo code EDF19, www.glassbuild.com, promo code EDF19. You're going to qualify for the opportunity, I think, of a lifetime. You're going to qualify for a tour, a VIP tour, an all-access VIP tour of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Being that it's in Atlanta this year and that incredible HOK designed product is right across the street practically. They've worked it out to be able to qualify a certain limited party for a VIP tour. And I don't mean a skirt around the fringe, look from the outside. This is a VIP tour. Locker rooms, field access, VIP suites. This is keys to the castle and it's go time. So they've worked it out with a couple of the manufacturers as well to come along, be tour guides, speak intimately about the Design Assist project, the products that are installed there. In helping further promote this, we sat down with Tom O'Malley with Clover Architectural and Reece from Oldcastle BuildingEnvelope and had a great discussion about their journey from cradle to grave on this amazing project. Again, www.glassbuild.com. Register, EDF19 is the promo code. You're going to get entered into this opportunity and then hand selected, hopefully, for this. And we're excited. So without further ado, as he's about to say in about 12 seconds, here is the episode.
So without further ado, let me actually introduce Mr. Reece, the engineered products manager from OBE. How are you today, Court?
I'm doing great, Brad. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing really well.
Well,
man,
thanks for having me on the show today, and looking forward to discussing Mercedes-Benz Stadium and products that we placed inside.
Yeah, absolutely, my man. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We also have with us Tom O'Malley. Tom O'Malley, Director of Sales and Partner for Clover Architectural. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
And also partner.
I said that.
You did?
Yeah.
Well, just wanted to double check.
Tom heard it. Tom heard it.
I heard it.
Mr. O'Malley got it.
It was real. Come on.
Well, hey, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We are going to dive into a couple of the... just this structure is literally one of the coolest things that I actually do. So these guys here are just like us. We walk around these cities or walk around the towns that we actually go and do, and all we're doing is looking up, right? It's just called look up architecture. Everybody's sitting there staring at their phones or looking at what their next step's going to be, make sure they don't step off the curb incorrectly. But for some reason, and maybe it's just because we got glass and metal coursing through our veins.
Yeah, for sure.
that we have to look up, and these two individuals are basically the same.
Well, no, we look at things as like in the Matrix, they only see ones and zeros, and they see the world how they see it, but through ones and zeros. We see everything we look at. We like, I wonder what that looked like in plan view, or I wonder what the details of this piece. Like we looked at it in terms of plan view and spec view.
So today we've actually got Court and Tom here that are actually going to take us through a little bit of, just a little bit of the behind the scenes for it to kind of give us a little bit of a teaser what we're going to expect on this tour at GlassBuild. So let's start with actually Court first. Court, kind of introduce us a little bit. How did you get introduced to Mercedes-Benz Stadium and this opportunity for OBE?
Sure. We started looking at this with HOK architecture, and then with the general contractor of the project that was on our specific area, which was Holder. I do believe there were multiple contractors working on this massive project that had a very, very tight window. And that was one of the most unique challenges to this project. When we ended up working with the glazing contractors, there was 2 different contractors that we did work with, and then we all kind of collaborated together. This was approximately about, the install of the products were approximately about 16 months after CRH and CR Lawrence merged together, and CRH acquired CRL. So this provided Oldcastle an instant opportunity for synergistic relationships with CRL. And we ended up forming a very tight bond and working really well together, which was imperative for this project. There were 84 all glass doors that went into it.
Oh my gosh.
56 of those were emergency panic devices, the Bloomcraft PA100s.
Wow.
There were
So just a plethora of entrances and exits and egress and ingress. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
A lot. That's insane.
That was the owners, so the Falcons, and then the architect's idea on creating an open environment into their secluded areas. So you saw this in the suites, you saw this in the especially bar areas where it was access controlled, and they wanted to use the Bloomcraft PA100 panic device as an access control for these specific areas.
So there's a couple areas that I wanted to ask you about specifically. We got Sky Bridges, the 100-yard club, and then 16 stories of glass, labeled kind of as about almost 23,000 square feet of glass actually on this thing. So the windows to the city. Talk about that a little bit. How was that to actually engineer with just the dimensions of the stadium, man? I mean, the 8 different facets that are actually attached to it that actually replicate in the roof panels. But I'm curious about just how was that to design and kind of go down to achieve with HOK?
Well, I mean, that was their intent, was to have as much glass and openness into this massive concrete structure as possible. And HOK had a great outlook in the beginning of wanting to try to, even though it was going to be enclosed much of the time, bring the outside in to this facility. And they chose glass to do that. And with all architects, they want to see as few sight lines as possible. I mean, when do we not talk to an architect where their goal is to minimize sight lines as much as possible?
Yeah, just walls of glass.
So in order to do this, we did some openings that were 14 foot wide, or 14 foot high, and 20 foot wide. And we used 1/2-inch glass and made them into structural fin walls, attached a top-loaded system and glass fins at the top. CRL actually worked really well in designing custom fabricated headers for this project that ran continuous all across the 20-foot opening. So this project has some really cool pieces that you don't see every day. And we have people that still come to us today. Oh yeah, we were at Mercedes-Benz Stadium this weekend and we saw the entrance into the 100-yard club and we loved it. We want to have that on our project. And I mean, it does catch their eye. So it gives us an opportunity to showcase our talents as well as CRL's.
Awesome. That's incredible. Real quick, we're jump to Tom, and Tom, give us some information about the products provided by Clover Architectural on this project.
Sure. So Clover got involved actually shortly after we formed as a company. So it was quite a project to jump into. I joke that I don't think my parents would give me this project, but we had a long-standing relationship with the glazing contractor Crown Core that we had worked on past stadiums with in our previous employment, and I think they felt comfortable with us and our approach. And so what we provided was all these sliding glass doors for 184 suites. So that included 750 doors, 1,500 door rails, and we partnered with a company called Hawa and used their sliding glass rollers and their track system. So we had 2 different track systems on this project. We had their Perdo system, which tied into our Clover Architectural Rail products. So that was our custom 3 5/8 rail. And then we also used their Variotech system, which is a custom rail that is actually, it's a 2-piece rail that can allows the door to both swing and to also slide. So it actually releases itself down with a special tool that allows the door to swing and to slide, which is obviously you can't do that with a standard door. So those are some of the things we got involved with. We also were asked by Crown Core to help with the embed layouts and then engineer all the steel layouts. When you're using a top hung sliding glass door system, you have to have steel to support it. So we engineered and designed that, which included all the custom crash analysis and the engineering to make sure that everything would work out once they put it in the field. We came up with a couple new products on this as well. We designed a custom pop-up strike that accounted for 1-inch deflection that could withstand the loads of a full stadium. So that was kind of a unique system we did. And then we also came up with a special hinge for some of the swing panels. So there's small little returns. Most of our doors sat on top of the drink counters, and so these were not full height doors, but they sat proud of the swing door that would allow you to leave the suite and go down to the seats outside the suite. And so there's a little 12-inch return panel that you couldn't put a roller on. So we designed a custom hinge that attached to the adjacent door and allowed that to slide with the other ones.
So kind of this, what you said 750. Did I get that number correct?
That's correct.
That was just kind of like passed over, glazed overs. 750 of these things. So is this mainly for the concessions areas, or is it for the suites areas? I mean, kind of give us a little bit of the insight as far as where these are located,
sure,
and how these guys can expect to actually interact with them when they do the tour.
Correct. Yeah, these are for I believe all the suites on the job. There's some suites that our system did not go into. They did not have top hung sliding systems. But every other suite in the stadium was the Clover sliding glass door system.
And so is this also for to kind of enclose the suite, or then to open the suite for then field access and the ambient noises, or is that the purpose of the doors, and kind of just either private or then
correct?
Open?
Yeah. So in every suite there's a swing door that allows them to kind of. So once you come into the suite itself, then there's a pivot door that pivots out to the seats that you can sit with the common people, if you'd like to say. But still would have the ability to go back into your suite and get any of the goodies inside there. With that also, there's a sliding system that will open up the whole suite. So if it's a nice day and they have the roof open and you want the fresh air, you can do that. If it's an event that's very loud and you want to have a little bit more privacy, you can have those doors closed. I think primarily they do try to open them up for all the games, and I think every suite holder has the ability to request, what they want to do before the event. Pretty much, I'm sure they do not allow any suite holders to move the sliding doors once the event starts.
So, got a question of how translating that from HOK's vision into actually how that was going to be executed. We talk a lot about on the Edify Studios podcast about how the applications people, we kind of denote them as third rounders, and bringing those people that are going to execute the work into the early works conversation with the architect. How was that to basically then speak with HOK, kind of see their sketches, see the design development drawings or CD drawings, whatever you got to interact with, and then bring that into an actual design? I mean, was that something you kind of just went, all right, we're going to just roll up our sleeves and do it? I mean, was there kind of like a special story as far as how you came up with the top hung, how you came up with some of the special custom hardware? I mean, where was that for you? Or maybe you can kind of give a little insight to that.
Sure. So we came in a little bit later than normally on a job for us. This was already somewhat designed as far as what they wanted to do. And when our customer was awarded the project, and they knew what we were doing here at Clover, They felt comfortable working with us and our team from past projects. So where we got involved is we made some pretty large mock-ups that we sent down to the job site. We went down to several job site meetings and kind of helped coordinate what exactly they wanted to do in terms of the 1-inch deflection and what we had to come up with the custom pop-up strike and coming up with how we're going to make that extra little 12-inch return panel work. Since there's not room. So a lot of those things is where Clover and our partner Howa got involved in making this system work to what they wanted. I know in general they had some other things designed when they were first put it out to bid, but I don't know if they had all these things worked out because when we were looking at it, a lot of those things had not been officially done all the way. And from our past experience in stadiums, a lot of those things they do kind of expect to be worked out, in the drawing process. Almost as a little bit of a design build to make the suites work.
Yeah, I could only imagine. It sounds very similar to what Court was kind of addressing with CRL and understanding how some of those openings being 20 foot wide or the 750 doors and the 1-inch deflection, but you really just kind of had to roll up your sleeves. You mentioned the pop-up strikes and those mock-ups. I'm interested to kind of understand, was it kind of just a product sample that you sent and said, hey, or a drawing, or what type of mock-ups were you looking at? I mean, this is quite substantial, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so we made a 5-panel mock-up that was about 2 to 3 foot tall. So we did not do a full-size mock-up in a suite, but we did basically replicate what they would be working with. And so we sent that down. It was something you could put on top of a table. And it was, these panels were not necessarily the same width, but they were, I think they were about 18 inches to 24 inches wide, going back on memory. For each panel, we had 4 or 5 of those doors in there. So that's what we did kind of for the mock-up that we sent down to meet with the architect and Holder, and Hunt was the other contractor on there. I think there's even a third that we met with HOK on, and our customer Crown Core. And then as far as the pop-up strike, that's something we more engineered and came up with. It wasn't something we sent any samples for, but it was something that had to be designed and engineered specifically for this project.
Got it. That's pretty detailed though. That's given them at least a really relative view into what that door is going to look like. Sure, it's not the same height and width as what they're looking at, but the everything else is there.
Correct. It was mainly to show them how smooth the system worked in terms of how it slid and how it turned and just for their comfort level. They had not worked with Clover or Howa on a stadium in the past, so that was the comfort level that we were offering them.
Well, almost nobody worked with Clover at that point, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's jumping off of a very big diving board. Jumping over back to Court, OBE is clearly like one of the biggest companies in the universe when it comes to specifically BuildingEnvelope. They have everything or own a company that has almost everything else. So what were the products that were from the OBE family, the lineup? What was used on this thing?
We used the DR4 rails, top and bottom on the doors, as well as the side lights. We used the CR Lawrence spider fittings, the fin receptors, Bloomcraft PA100 F-style panics. Those went full height. They had the access control using a ESK2 electric strike.
Okay. Yeah.
So these were going to be high usage doors. We went with a heavier closer. It was an LCN 6030, and we paired that with Rixson H340 and H345 pivot sets. So
beefy. That
was a beefy door.
Yeah.
And it's made to withstand.
Okay, was that the 20 foot? Was that the 14-foot door?
That was every door leaf we put into
every single one of them
had that closer with the pivot option.
Wow.
Sounds like the right lineup, because that's going to get so much open and close on the regular. Like that's a tremendous load in and out on an access, specifically on a big day. So that sounds like it's the right lineup.
And the glazing contractor who installed most of these was Glasstream, which is based out of Atlanta. And we went back after the install, and I think it was after the first season. So the winter of early 2018. And we made some adjustments to the doors on site, and they've been, happy and working great.
So I got a question for you, Court. So in your original submittal package, when you actually went through this and said, okay, we're going to use the Rixons, we're going to use the LCNs, this is the direction we're going to go, was that actually in the door hardware schedule, or was it something that had to be specially engineered to be like, hey, look, because of the size of this, because of the heavy use of this, or how are those decisions made from a hardware schedule standpoint? I think that's such a big one for the industry in general. And as we kind of take that tour through the stadium, you'll see, I kind of want to bookmark that a little bit, because when I see that, I want to know if that was actually something that was chosen before or after the process.
No, that was, like Tom was saying, that was kind of a design build phase of this project. I mean, we knew their intent, we knew their desires. We just had to work with the architects to make sure that the products, the function of the products they were asking for could meet the structural requirements of the job. And so we worked together into getting into those components and did engineering on the openings, making sure that, we were providing the end users the best possible products available.
And it's so important to be part of that process early, right? To be involved early to design these things that are going to take a tremendous amount more than a normal door, quote unquote. Not that any of these are normal doors, but that's the brilliance of the design team understanding. Look, we've got to get Court in here, and we've got to get Tom in here, and we've got to get a bunch of people in here to start figuring this out. And it sounds like they did that. They got the people there, and they got things going.
Yeah, the design team did a great job in getting us the information early, and then allowing us to have the time to work through it and get the products approved and then in-house ready for the install. Because by the time the summer of 2017 came, the construction had delayed the project, and as it usually works out, interior glass are one of the last items to be installed. And so it was really crunch time on production. We were building lots of glass doors out of here every week, specifically for the stadium project. It was crunch time on the glazing contractors who were installing these, Crown Core and Glasstream, and everyone really worked to get us openings in a time that we could provide them the products, and then go back and also work to get the products installed to the opening sizes.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a just-in-time event all the way across the entire structure of the project, both for Tom and also for you, Court. That's really interesting. When I say just-in-time, it's not only just from a delivery as far as when openings are going to be released for fabrication and installation, but almost like a just-in-time design build process that you guys are both looking at to say, hey, we're actually diving into this to make sure that it's not only engineered properly, but there might be a 3/4 of a good suggestion given by HOK and their consultants and those guys in mind. But just the application that you guys were able to bring to it was just that just-in-time design and then a just-in-time fabrication release.
Yeah.
What a man! That just sounds completely
right.
It's almost it sounds exciting, but I can understand the stress that's involved with it as well. You know what I mean?
Oh, it sounds like the perfect horror, right? That's exactly what we look for and live for in this environment, is that absolute terror show that is the hurry, figure it out. But now you really have to figure it out.
I want to make sure that we give a couple of sneak peeks as you guys walk through it. We want to invite everybody to come back into it. Is there anything that is as we go through it, or is there any teasers that you want to actually say? Be like, hey, we're going to share a story when we get up to the 100 Club or something like that, or something like that you can kind of give out that is maybe not necessarily seen or not necessarily known right now when it comes to the stadium, or like, I'd love to kind of give those glass nerds a little bit of like, hey, you'll get to see some products, or you get to see this or something like that. Is there something you could actually give to those guys that they're gonna make sure they actually sign up for this thing and get this thing in their books for their schedule?
Yeah, we'll start with Court. Anything on that one?
There are a couple items on that site that are very unique and specific. We had to get special sign off from the City of Atlanta Fire Department for these, so that's something we'll share on site at GlassBuild tours.
That would be rad, actually. I would love to see some. Are those the fire fittings you were talking about?
No, they're not fire fittings, but it has to do with the access control and the door.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be rad. That'll be really cool. And then, Tom, what do you think, man? Is there anything you want to share as far as like your products and how you can introduce those, or what's any secrets behind the scenes thing?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think probably more than anything is just most of us don't get the opportunity to go into a suite and to see what it looks like from that perspective, and to see how this, systems like this work. I don't have anything more specific in terms of like Court had with a special product, but I mean, really to see how that system works, and they'll have a suite open. We can show them how it slides back and forth, and how that extra little special hinge was designed, and I think that'd be pretty cool. And then to see the Variotech system, to show them how it's a two-piece rail system, how that can be released down and slide and leave the top portion in place. I think that's a pretty cool system that you're just not going to see that on the typical glass door. There's no need for it on most applications. So primarily you do see it in the stadium. So that would be a pretty cool thing to see while on the tour.
You guys, if you're listening to the podcast and you guys are thinking about attending GlassBuild, we would just urge you you guys, this is a rare event. This is something that we actually get to have just maybe once in like every 2 or 3 years or 10 years. When you actually look at this, is we get to tour an actual iconic project in architecture world. We get to go with Court Reece and Tom O'Malley, these people that actually probably just blood, sweat, and tears on this thing, just to get into this thing. Now they actually get to open it up, not only just unhinge it, but remember like when you're a kid and you're just like, I want to figure out how this works for like a Christmas toy or something like that. Now you get to like take it apart and stuff like that. These guys get to invite you into that world to kind of just disassemble a little bit of these glass and door products inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium, to really invite you into how these were engineered, how these were decided. I mean, that two-piece rail system, Tom, that sounds pretty cool. I know you probably like dealt with it way too much to be like, oh, that is what it is, but to me,
no, it
awesome.
is. And also like to add, I was the 2018 Best Tour Guide in several different magazines. So I've got
2018 Best Tour Guide in several different magazines, huh?
Tom's really putting pressure on here.
As voted on by some people.
So, Court, you better wear a nice shirt, okay?
That's right.
Now, these guys are seasoned veterans within the window and door and glass world. We want to make sure that you guys understand that these guys have the applications. They actually are going to unleash way more than behind the scenes in this. So we would urge you guys to go to make sure you book those tickets, get those things rolling, and actually sign up for this event. This is one of the most unique parts of GlassBuild I think we're actually going to be introducing.
No, this is outstanding. And just to remind everybody that this is September 18th, Wednesday, September 18th is when this tour will actually take place. It's before the show begins. It's a tour of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And again, this is locker rooms, fields, sky bridges, 100-yard club, and so much more. It literally is a hands-on guided tour by nerds just like us, who are going to show us exactly what's going on, and we get to really see it from a vantage point that we just don't get. We don't get this thrown at us very often. So I just wanted to throw a sincere thank you to Tom with Clover Architectural, Court, OBE. Thank you both so much for agreeing to be part of this and sitting with us.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions for Tom or for Court individually, we want to make sure that you reach back out to Edify Studios, and we'd be glad to facilitate that conversation. Reach us on Instagram at Edify_Studios, also on LinkedIn at Edify Studios. Just push a personal message our way, but also reach out to Clover Architectural Products at www.cloverarchitecturalproducts.com. I know Tom will just be willing to dive into whatever projects you guys are going to be looking at, and then make sure that you guys use those applications and custom projects that Court mentioned within the thing. Is just how enabled OBE is to kind of just integrate the different family of products that they've got. Great. And reach out to them on obe.com. That's obe.com. Pretty simple, straightforward. To just research some of their products. They got some great stuff that's super accessible on the websites. Man, just thanks so much for joining us today on the podcast. As we wrap things up,
it's just make sure you hit GlassBuildAmerica.com and register. That's how you're going to get into this tour opportunity. GlassBuildAmerica.com. Tom, thank you again. Court, thank you again.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, my pleasure. Thanks, guys, for having us.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, guys, so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you at GlassBuild America on September 17th through the 19th, 2019. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Edify Studios podcast with hosts Brad Glauser and Brad Walker. To learn more about Edify Studios, visit www.edify-studios.com. That's www.edify-studios.com.